by Sengar under more severe IPC charges, citing they were not squarely applicable. The trial court noted the CBI's investigation was unfair, disadvantaging the victim. The victim's family alleges the agency colluded with Sengar to suppress evidence on her age, producing fabricated documents. The case, remember, raises concerns now about the CBI's role in ensuring justice for victim and complexities of prosecuting powerful individuals. Let's quickly give you a lowdown. Let's talk about the 3 moves that CBI must explain in the Unnao rape case, and then we'll put out the exclusive documents we've accessed here as well. But the first big takeaway is legal formalism over victim justice. Was this prioritized? Instead of contesting the spirit of accountability, the CBI leaned on a narrow technical argument that an MLA is not a public servant under Section 21 IPC, fully aware that this would weaken the application of graver charges under POCSO. The question being asked here is, did CBI prioritize legal defensiveness over the survivor's right to strong prosecution? The second big takeaway, and the question being asked, is that the investigation marked by bias and not neutrality. Is that what's happened here? The High Court's own record is damning, which is the trial court found it an inescapable conclusion that CBI's investigating officer failed to conduct a fair probe, which leaves us with the question, is the victim justified in alleging active collusion, suppression of age-related evidence, and the introduction of fabricated documents? The third big question we ask, and this is the question that is being spoken of, institutional support when it mattered the most. Is that what's happened here? When the victim sought in 2019 to have Sengar tried under more stringent provisions as a public servant accused of rape, the CBI refused to back the plea, arguing charges were not squarely applicable. Which brings us to the question, did the CBI's refusal, noted by the High Court, effectively leave the survivor battling not just the accused, but the CBI itself? I do want to go across to Aman Sharma, who joins us with all these exclusive documents. Aman, tell us, what have we found out and why does this raise such serious questions?
Well, Kritswin, see, the CBI is now saying that they are going to file an urgent appeal in this matter, and that urgent appeal declaration came last night after the Unnao rape victim had met Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. Before that, the CBI sources were saying they are still studying the judgment, but now they say they're going to challenge the judgment. But what has really happened during the course of this entire matter, in the High Court, in the trial court, raises big questions upon the CBI. Number one, the main stand that the High Court has taken to suspend the sentence of Mr. Kuldeep Singh Sengar is that he is not a public servant. If he is not a public servant, the aggravated sexual assault section of POCSO, which is Section 5C and Section 6, will not apply to him. That is the main contention, and that is why he has got the let-off in this particular case. Now, look at what the CBI says when it argues on this matter in the High Court. I'll quote from here. The CBI says, tackling the contention raised by Mr. Sengar that he is not a public servant for the purposes of the POCSO Act, and this is right from the court judgment. We are not quoting from anywhere else. We are quoting right from the court judgment. This is what the CBI told the High Court, that tackling the contention raised by Mr. Sengar that he is not a public servant for the purposes of the POCSO Act, the learned special public prosecutor of the CBI has submitted that even though it has been held by the apex court in a particular case that the MLA is not a public servant as defined under Section 21 of IPC, it is for the courts to adopt the principle of purposive construction. So right at the onset, the CBI is saying that yes, there is a Supreme Court judgment earlier which says MLA is not a public servant. So the main prosecuting agency in a way is already agreeing with the appellant, which is Mr. Sengar, that MLA is not a public servant, but it is appealing to the court that to adopt the principle of purposive construction and still consider him as a public servant. Of course, that did not cut any ice with the High Court, and that particular POCSO sections of 5C and Section 6 have been struck down by the court, virtually making Mr. Sengar a free man unless he is, there's another case in which he's still in jail. But in this particular case, he's virtually a free man because he spent more than 7 years, and the only section High Court said applies to him is Section 3 of POCSO. That is the number one thing. Number two, I would like to point out to you what the Victim told the Delhi High Court during the course of this High Court hearings. The victim said and put the CBI into big trouble, saying that even after the investigation was transferred to the CBI, the fairness and the impartiality were not ensured. So this is the victim expressing a complete no confidence in the CBI, saying that even after the investigation was transferred to the CBI, fairness and impartiality were not ensured. In fact, the victim has gone ahead to make serious allegations against the investigating officer of the CBI in this case at the initial stage, saying he was in collusion with Mr. Kuldeep Singh Sengar. Now, that is a very, very serious accusation by the victim's family, and that has been captured in this High Court judgment. The faith that the lack of faith, I would say, rather the victim has in the CBI has been captured in this particular judgment. Another very, very damning aspect, Kritsween, which I want to highlight to the viewers, that in 2019, maybe the family had an inkling that such charges may not stick. The victim's family then went to the trial court saying that additional sections of the IPC should be put on Mr. Sengar, because they said it's a public servant and these additional charges under the IPC are put on him. He will face a stiffer sentence. But guess what happened? The CBI ignored this. The CBI even, in fact, in the trial court objected to the addition of these additional charges, and that also finds a mention in the High Court judgment. I'll quote from that the trial court dismissed the victim's appeal and said that the above order dated 20th August 2019 passed by the learned trial court was not challenged by the victim but was not supported by the CBI. And if you read this particular order of 2019 of the trial court, where the victim's family was asking for graver charges against Mr. Sengar so that he stays in jail for longer, the CBI said, this is not our case, we will not support it. So these three major questions marks arise on the CBI because of that stage in 2019. If the CBI had backed the family in putting these additional charges, maybe today Mr. Sengar would not have been sentence would not have been suspended at all. But these are very, very serious charges, and CBI, I think, has a lot of explanation to do on why it acted in the way it has in this particular case.
Thank you for getting us all those key details. Aman, stay on with us. Let's put these questions, these key questions, to our experts joining in this morning. Former IPS Vikram Singh joins us along with activist Yogita Bhayana. Mr. Singh, first to you. Aman has given us a lowdown of the questions that stand, the questions that must be asked to the CBI. With so much trust and faith being placed on a premier agency, if they're unable to build a watertight case, and as has been highlighted by Aman just seconds ago, where does this leave the victim? What are the questions on your mind, Mr. Singh, as we open this conversation?
Good morning, ladies. What Aman has said is absolutely lucid, cogent, and logical. I have seldom seen in my life this gross miscarriage of justice and perverse investigation trying to aid and abet a horrific and a predator accused. In this case, strictures were passed against the CBI, and very seldom have strictures been passed on the CBI because it is a multi-tiered investigation with at multi-level legal interpretation and logic. And not to mention also that the CBI advocate was changed midway because she was pursuing the case very vigorously. Perhaps it was very inconvenient to the powers that be, and lo and behold, you have somebody who almost gave a walkover to Sengar. And then you see the entire ecosystem, one part of the ecosystem, supporting a predator, the like of which a monster and a Frankenstein is seldom to be seen. And in my career, I have seldom seen somebody as perverse and as monstrous as Kuldeep Sengar. Now to say he murdered the father of the prosecutrix, he murdered the two aunts, he in fact was a serial offender. And I don't know what compulsions are there for the CBI and the powers that be to be on the side of the assailant and not on the side of the victim. Aman also mentioned that in case of the victim, there are pages after pages in Justice Verma Commission, and Yogita will shed more light. Victimology and victim sympathy and empathy are an important aspect of criminal jurisprudence, and we have failed the victim yet once again, as we failed Nirbhaya. I really don't know what are the compulsions. Obviously, political expediency, that is the only answer that I can possibly give you. But it will bleed anybody's heart to see this level of miscarriage of justice. And Aman, I think whatever he has made, the fourth point, the last point would be that it is a systematic collapse of supervision of investigation, pursuit and vigorous pursuit in the court of law. And I think everybody sided with Sengar.
And Mr. Vikram Singh, I would just like to point out one more thing to you as a question. You know, especially this 2019 matter, when the victim's family actually goes to the trial court and says they want additional charges, and this was under section 376 2F and K of the IPC. They said that these particular charges should be added against Mr. Sengar, and these charges, if they had been added by the trial court, in fact, would have ensured that he stayed in jail. He would have been considered a public servant, if not under POCSO, under the IPC. Look what the CBI says. The CBI in the court says, instead of siding with the victim, the CBI is saying that CBI has not relied on any such provisions. It would not back the victim's family case to add these particular provisions. In fact, it went on to say that the application was in fact dismissed by the trial court, and the High Court is now saying that this above order by the trial court in 2019 was not supported by the CBI. I think the CBI siding with Mr. Sengar and not with the family in the trial court for additional charges is something I have not really heard of in the past.
Absolutely, Mr. Raman. Just one sentence. That this is a foregone conclusion that everybody, not only the CBI, everybody was collusive in aiding and abetting Kuldeep Sengar, and also their definition of public servant. You can't have this situation that show me the man and I'll show you the rules. In Narasimha Rao's case, MLAs were said to be public servants. Okay, I admit he's not a public servant, but he was very much in a position of trust and authority, and therefore he should have taken the harshest rap. But when you see something with a Nelson's eye, then I'm sure justice is a far cry. You're so very right, Mr. Raman, but I'm sure you are as hurt as anybody else on the panel and in the country.
Which also, unfortunately, Aman, Mr. Singh and Yogita leaves us with the question that the High Court's decision to suspend Kuldeep Sengar perhaps was purely legal. The High Court was not left with an option. Yogita, tell us what you make of that, and the constant crying that we've seen on part of the victim's family say that we have not been heard, that this is active collusion. All of that gets highlighted, stands validated today if we just go by the court notings and what the victims have been alleging.
So if you read the order, I mean, you will definitely be outraged and laughing at the same time. This is a very childish order where you can clearly see they are trying to find the ways to set him free. It is very evident because there are so many rape cases there. There are so many POCSO cases there. Of course, the POCSO was not as hard as it was after, this guy was convicted. But however, there are so many lacunas and you can clearly see the connivance. I would not mince my words because we don't have time for all that, kind of putting it that courts have done a good job. Definitely they are compromised. You can very much see from the language, not only me and you and Vikram sir, I think any child will read that. Even a law intern, maybe even lesser age person can read that judgment and say how the courts are trying to find the ways and methods to release him. It's as simple as that. Now coming to another point, I was talking to the girl because of course we've been with her for many years, so we know the facts that she has not studied in the school as she's saying, which is mentioned that as per that record her age was less than certain, like 18. However, okay, if there is a doubt in POCSO, but there is no doubt that she was raped and gang raped later. Now what we want is, we want any rape victims, I mean, as per the law, new law, BNS, the law is very strict on any rape cases for that matter, even the molestation. And 7 years they are saying, okay, in the benefit of doubt, read the language, it is very funny. So they are having a lot of pendency of the cases and they have certain words using mercy on him. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, we feel very degraded that we try to work so much for women empowerment. Women empowerment will not come. Now, how many victims will come and report? Because he was such a high and mighty person. This girl had courage to report. She had courage to fight despite of so many, episodes in her life which were devastating. Her father was killed, her
and that's
lawyer
the
was
question being
killed,
asked, Yogita. Was she right? Was the victim right, justified in alleging active collusion? All of this does unfortunately point to that. Aman, you must take us through some of these key highlights of the documents, court documents we've accessed. To begin with, everything started going wrong with that narrow argument that CBI was leaning on, that an MLA is not a public servant under Section 21 IPC, that in itself weakened the application of graver charges that could have been slapped back then.
Well, yes, Kritsveer, and I'm taking you back again, as I was asking Mr. Vikram Singh, to this 2019 trial court judgment, which is becoming now very, very crucial. The High Court, in fact, has depended on it in a way to dismiss the charges that, Mr. Sengar is a public servant. Now, look at what happened in 2019. The victim's family goes to the trial court saying that invoke sections 376(2) and K of the IPC, because under IPC these sections can surely be invoked because Mr. Sengar was in a position of power. Look what the CBI says to the court. When the matter reaches the court, the CBI says we are not relying on such provisions. They very clearly tell the court we are not relying on such provisions. They are not backing the victim's application. In fact, the learned senior public prosecutor for the CBI, and I read it out, made his submission against the applicability of provisions in question, saying that the present application is non-est in law. So the CBI is going and telling the trial court that whatever the victim family is saying about adding provisions to the case, they are not supporting it, and that is what the High Court has now captured in its order. It says, it cites this particular trial court order of 2019 to say this particular sections were not supported by the CBI. So when the prosecuting agency is not supporting these additional charges, see what happens now. The court even strikes down the POCSO Act. And I would also read out to you two clear submissions made out by the victim's family, which basically raised big question marks over the CBI. I read out to that HC points to the trial court observation. The High Court is saying, High Court is pointing to the trial court observation that it is an inescapable conclusion that the investigating officer of the CBI did not conduct a fair investigation, resulting in a disadvantage in the case to the victim and her family members. Look at what the High Court is saying, that the CBI investigating officer did not help the case of the victim's family. It also says that the IO of the CBI, which is the investigating officer of the CBI, worked in collusion with Mr. Kuldeep Singh Sengar in order to ensure that the relevant evidence regarding the age of the victim never sees the light of the day, and instead the fabricated documents prepared by Sengar were produced before the court. So these are serious observations in the Delhi High Court judgment, raising question marks on the CBI, how it has handled the case from the trial stage itself, and now in the High Court, when the CBI itself says that, the public servant, Mr. Sengar is not a public servant as per an earlier Supreme Court judgment, but asked the court to still, look into it. It is in way surrendering the arms even before the matters in the High Court began.
And let's zoom out, in fact, Mr. Singh, let's zoom out and see what this kind of a judgment, this kind of a probe, in fact, does overall. What it does is, with the life sentence now seeing a suspension, there is an active risk of erosion of public trust in the justice system. That's the one thing which is being looked at, which is being spoken of, being argued against so heavily the last few hours.
My first opening remark would be, I must compliment Aman, you and your channel, for exposing the ugly truth behind the judgment and the unsparing remarks by the Honorable High Court in respect of the CBI. There are horrible fault lines in what has happened because the credibility of the CBI has taken a beating, and it will be difficult to recover from that shock and trauma now. Because what the CBI said, that he seems to be investigating in favor of the accused. And again, I would repeat what Mr. Aman has said, that he seems to be working at the behest of the accused Sengar. And that to a perverse, a Frankenstein monster. And whatever the High Court has said, I feel that the IO needs to lose his job. In such strictures, either it was an adverse entry with withholding of the integrity certificate. In this case, I must say that he needs to, be shown the door. Such people have no place in sensitive investigating agency on which the credibility of the entire organization was based. This was a high-profile case, and I'm disappointed that it must have seen the supervision at multiple levels. I would also go a step further, that they should investigate the supervisory officers where they're sleeping over the files. They were as complicit as the IO himself, because the compulsions now, I think, pieces of the jigsaw puzzle are now falling in together, and the entire picture is that the lady prosecutor was perhaps summarily asked to leave because she was pursuing the case vigorously. And therefore, you are very right, it will be difficult to recover from the shock. Everybody was complicit and collusive for Sengar.
Yogita, I want to ask you this, because the story going forward now is being looked at. What happens to the victim, victim's family? A certain terms and conditions have been set by the Delhi High Court. But what safeguards you think must be ensured so that the victim or the witnesses are not intimidated after such a questionable relief is granted? Despite these terms and conditions, is there a larger fear being looked at?
See, her life is on constant threat. Not that just we are saying it because she has experienced this, such a horrendous accident where she was the only one who survived and she was in hospital for so many months. So her husband was attacked last month. They came to her house, in-laws' house, and asked her to compromise. And then when husband and she refused, he was beaten up brutally by 4 men for no reason. So there is a constant threat and evidently there. You know, it's not that she's trying to say anything because I've been associated with her since her accident days. And we were trying to get her back to the life. We gave her some skill trainings and she was seemingly very okay now to live, life without fear because it was very difficult for her to come out of that. Now she was happily married with 2 little children. She wanted a normal life and suddenly this happens. Her mother, her security cover was withdrawn. Only she has the security cover. For how long, we don't know. Mother doesn't have the siblings. She has 4 siblings where they are staying without security cover. And it is not that it has not happened. So there is a constant threat and mentally she is definitely, I would say, disturbed.
Yeah.
Her husband is disturbed. They are suicidal. Honestly, when she was in the court,
and which explains why
she
we've
called
seen the
me
victim
that this
also
has
reach out to the leader of opposition. So there's those kind of interactions and meetings that have been taking place as well. That's all the time we have, Mr. Singh. Yogita, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. Aman, thank you for taking us through those exclusive documents. Heading into a very quick break with that. We'll be right back in just a bit.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Let's get you the top focus story that we will be tracking in this bulletin. Tariq Rahman, the acting chairman of Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is set to return to Dhaka today after 17 years in exile amidst heightened security measures in the country. The airport and route to his residence have been turned into a fortress with a double-layered security cordon in place. His return is seen as a pivotal movement for the BNP, with the party mobilizing nationwide and expecting around 2 to 5 million supporters to gather for his welcome reception. Rahman's arrival comes ahead of the February 2026 general elections, and he is expected to take charge of the BNP's campaign. His mother, Khalida Zia, is currently ill, and Rahman's return is seen as a morale booster for the party. Government has assured security measures, and Rahman's itinerary includes visits to his mother's hospital, the National Memorial, and a reception venue. BNP sees
Welcome back to CNN News 18. My name is Heem Korsar and here's what we're tracking for you right now. Let's get started. Amid the nationwide outrage over the reprieve to rapist former BJP MLA, CNN News 18 opens the Sengar Files. We reveal how the CBI seemingly withdrew the institutional support to the victim when she needed it the most. Big CNN News 18 reportage impacts CBI to move Supreme Court challenging suspension of Kuldeep Sengar's life sentence in the Unnao rape case. Bangladesh's rising extremist violence targets minorities. Now explosion kills 1 near a church. Prime Minister Modi attends Christmas prayers at Delhi Cathedral in a powerful message of Sabka Saath. Bishop of Delhi, Reverend Paul Sarup, leads special prayers for Prime Minister Modi, who hails timeless message of love and compassion. Centre orders ban on new mining licenses in the Aravalis, but the question remains, who will halt the mining mafia? CNN News 18 exposes the rampant plunder of our hills as illegal mining continues with impunity in parts of Rajasthan. TVK leaders confirm alliance talks with TTV, and former CM as Vijay emerges as the strong alternative to the DMK with his own party's internal surveys indicating the TVK in a strong number 2 position already, displacing the AIADMK as DMK's top rival. Day after shocking pictures of her being assaulted in broad daylight triggered nationwide outrage, CNN News 18 accesses women's police complaints, where she reveals trauma of being stalked for months before being assaulted for rejecting the man's proposal. India expresses deep hurt after Thai army raises Lord Vishnu's statue along the Cambodia border. Ministry of External Affairs says such actions hurt sentiments globally. All right, our top focus at this hour, the Delhi High Court's recent decision to suspend former BJP MLA Kuldeep Sengar's life sentence in the Unnao rape case has sparked nationwide outrage. The spirit of justice has been betrayed. Questions are now rising over the CBI's handling of the case. In a mega exclusive CNN News 18, it's accessed the documents submitted by the probe agency, and the details are startling to say the least. The CBI admitted that the MLA isn't considered a public servant under Section 21 IPC. This had a direct impact on Sengar's sentencing. The agency didn't even support the survivor's 2019 petition to try Sengar under more severe IPC charges, citing they weren't squarely applicable. The irony is rather amusing. The trial court noted the CBI's investigation was unfair, disadvantaging the survivor. Her family alleges the agency colluded with rape-accused Sengar to suppress evidence on her age, producing fabricated documents. This case has raised serious concerns about the CBI's role in ensuring justice for victims and the complexities of prosecuting powerful individuals. Let's just tell you what the 3 moves are that the CBI must explain at this point. Takeaway number 1, CBI chose legal formalism over victim justice. That's the big question. Instead of contesting the spirit of accountability, the CBI leaned on a narrow, or rather technical argument that an MLA is not a public servant under Section 21 IPC, fully aware here that this would weaken the application of graver charges under POCSO. So the next question here comes, did CBI prioritize legal defensiveness over the survivor's right to strong prosecution? Investigation, we are given to understand, and we're seeing proof of this also, was marked by bias and not neutrality. The High Court's own record is damning here. The trial court found it an inescapable conclusion that the CBI's investigating officer failed to conduct a fair probe. Is the victim justified in alleging active collusion, then suppression of age-related evidence and the introduction of fabricated documents? CBI withdrew institutional support when it mattered the most. When the victim sought in 2019 to have Sengar tried under more stringent provisions as a public servant accused of rape, the CBI refused to back this plea, arguing the charges were not squarely applicable. Now you'd think that's a given, but that's not what they thought. Did CBI's refusal, which is also noted by the High Court, effectively leave the survivor battling not just the accused but the CBI itself? Meanwhile, the survivor continues to fight for justice. Listen to this.
मेरे साथ फिलहाल इस केस की पीड़िता यानी जो जिनके साथ दुष्कर्म करने की कोशिश की गई वो थी, किस तरीके से आप देखती हैं जो आज निर्णय कल हाईकोर्ट की तरफ से आया, पहले ये बताइए।
मुझे इस निर्णय से मुझे बहुत दुख है, मुझे आहत हो रही है और मुझे लगा मैं हाई कोर्ट में ही अपना सुसाइड कर लूं। लेकिन मेरे साथ में बहुत गलत हुआ है। क्या 30 जारी कोर्ट के जज साहब देवेंद्र शर्मा अनपढ़ थे जो उनको सजा सुनाई? हाई कोर्ट के जज ऐसा क्या है कि वो ना सुप्रीम कोर्ट के हाई लेवल पे है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजों से हाई लेवल नहीं है, लेकिन उन्होंने पता नहीं क्या देखते हुए उनके फेवर में ऑर्डर सुनाया। मेरे चाचा की बेल खारिज होती है, उसके बाद में मेरे परिवार की, मेरे गवाहों की, मेरे पैरोकारों की सुरक्षा हटाई जाती है। उसके बाद उसमें बहस हो जाती है 3 महीना। 3 महीना बहस होने के बाद 3 महीने बाद ऑर्डर आता है। बहस होने के 1-2 दिन बाद अगर ऑर्डर आता तो मुझे देश को मैसेज जाता, पब्लिक को मैसेज जाता कि ऐसा हुआ, लेकिन 3 महीने बाद आया था कि पूरा सुरक्षित करके तब ऑर्डर आया। मेरे पति को मरवाया गया, मेरे बच्चे दूध पीते बच्चे हैं, 7-8 करोड़ की धमकी दी जा रही है कि कंप्रोमाइज करिए नहीं तो मार देंगे। उनके लिए सुरक्षा क्या चीज है? 5 लोग कुछ नहीं है, वो कभी भी मार सकते हैं। बस मेरा यही है कि मुझे न्याय दिया जाए और इनको इस मामले में जमानत ना दी जाए, क्योंकि ये देश का पहला ऑर्डर है जो हर बेटी की हिम्मत को तोड़ दिया है।
आज मैं आपकी माता जी के साथ मौजूद था और आप जब उनसे बात कर रही थी, कुछ सुरक्षा को लेके भी कुछ दिक्कत हुई। आप एक दूसरी गाड़ी में थी, हम लोग एक दूसरी गाड़ी में थे।
सुरक्षा के मद्देनजर तक देखते हुए मुझे उन्होंने बोला कि आप सुरक्षा के अंडर में हैं, आप बाहर नहीं जा सकती हैं, और उनका कोई कसूर नहीं, उनकी सुरक्षा जो कोर्ट ने लगा रखी है उन्होंने कोर्ट का उल्लंघन नहीं किया।
गुस्सा है, दर्द है,
गुस्सा है, सब कुछ है। उनकी बेल खारिज की जाए, हमारा यही हाथ जोड़ के रिक्वेस्ट है। हमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट पे आंख बंद करके भरोसा है कि हमें न्याय मिलेगा और हमें जनता न्याय दिलाएगी।
All right, let's discuss this one by one. We have with us Aman Sharma. Aman, thank you so much for joining me in the studio. Let's just talk about the critical lapses that have come to light here. First here, the definition of a public servant. Let's talk about this, what it really meant for the victim's case and what are the implications that we are seeing play out right now. We've heard the victim's account on this as well.
Well, I think the major matter in this is that the court has struck down Section 5C and Section 6 of the POCSO Act, under which Mr. Sengar was convicted in the trial court. Section 5C and Section 6 means that he would have spent life in jail. Now he only has to be convicted under Section 3 of POCSO Act, under which the maximum sentence is 7 years, and he's already spent more than 7 years in jail. So the High Court is saying we are permanently suspending his sentence. The court is saying, the High Court is saying that Mr. Sengar as an MLA does not qualify to be a public servant, a condition which is very much required if you have to convict a person under Section 5C and Section 6 of the POCSO Act. Now, where does the CBI stand in this? In fact, in the High Court, when this particular question was asked to the CBI, look at what the CBI says. Tackling the contention raised by Mr. Sengar that he is not a public servant for the purposes of the POCSO Act, the learned special public prosecutor of the CBI has submitted that it has been held by the apex court in a particular case that an MLA is not a public servant as defined under Section 21 IPC, but it is for the courts to adopt the principle of purposive construction. So, at the very onset of its argument, the CBI in a way is surrendering arms, saying that yes, there is an earlier Supreme Court judgment which says an MLA is not a public servant, but can the court look at a purposive construction of the events to consider him a public servant? I think this was the first stage where the seeds were, seeds were sown that the court will strike off those sections, because the CBI itself is admitting that there is a Supreme Court judgment earlier which holds that the MLA is not a public servant. Then I would like to point to you what the victim's lawyer, how they are slamming the CBI, the victim side in the High Court. Look at what the victim's family is saying. I will read out the quotes to you. Even after the investigation was transferred to the CBI, fairness and impartiality were not ensured. This is what the victim's family is telling the High Court, which subsequently dismissed the charges against Mr. Sengar. Also, the victim's family says, and I will point out here to you, the learned counsel for the victim has drawn the attention of this court to a catena of points which have been highlighted in the earlier judgments, that Sengar, who in a position of authority has bent the law to his advantage and a premier institution like the CBI has been compromised in the nature and the manner of collecting evidence. So the victim's family is saying that CBI in this particular case was compromised. And why CBI was compromised is also something that is being noted by the High Court in its particular judgment, where it quotes the trial court judgment, where the learned trial court has observed that it is an inescapable conclusion. It is an inescapable conclusion that the investigating officer of the CBI did not conduct a fair investigation in the matter, resulting in a disadvantage to the case of the victim and her family members. This is what the High Court has noted regarding the trial court judgment in this particular case. And I think the most damning point comes regarding this 2019 judgment of the trial court in this particular case. Now, what happened in 2019? That the victim's family went to the trial court, maybe second guessing that, these POCSO charges may not stand. They said graver charges under the IPC must be put against Mr. Sengar because he's a public servant. They filed this petition in the trial court in 2019, and guess what happens? The CBI does not support that petition. The CBI says we do not agree with these additional provisions. We do not want to support the petition. In fact, they oppose the petition in that trial court. And listen what the High Court has now noted. It says the trial court order, which dismissed, of course, the victim's petition of putting additional charges under IPC. It says the above order of the trial court dated 20th August 2019 was not supported by the CBI. So the High Court is saying that this particular trial court order in which the victim's family wanted graver charges against Mr. Sengar was not supported by the CBI. This is very, very rare when the prosecuting agency is not supporting the victim. In fact, it is saying we do not want to put graver charges against Mr. Sengar. So all these things together, all these documents, all these points made in the High Court judgment are raising big, big questions on the CBI.
Absolutely, Amin. Now, for more on this, we're also now being joined by Suzben Shah, lawyer and spokesperson Shiv Sena, as well as Pooja Tripathi, spokesperson Congress. Thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast this morning. Ms. Shah, let me just come to you first. Of course, as Amin has also highlighted, the critical lapses in the CBI's investigation, which have now come to the fore. What's your assessment of this order? I believe we aren't getting your audio, ma'am. If you could just...
Yes, yes.
Right.
I've just... good morning to all, and let me tell you this. Today, all of us, the NDA, there is no politics in this. This is a judicial procedure. There is no political protection. But since I'm here as a spokesperson of the NDA, Shiv Sena, I would like to say this very, 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 very categorically, that we stand with the survivor. We stand for her dignity, for her safety, and for her safety. Now, what has happened? Whether we have to rely on the wisdom of the two division bench High Court judges. Now, whether the appeal should have been heard first before the suspension being passed, I believe these people have a lot to answer. I was very, very sure that the CBI in their wisdom would move the Supreme Court. CBI, yes, has a lot of explanation to do, and those found guilty of conniving, colluding with the convict. Let me tell you this. He's not been acquitted. He is a convict. He's running consecutively and concurrently 2 life imprisonment. It is indeed a rarest of rare cases. We have no doubt in our mind. So I would like to once again reinforce that there is no political protection. He stands expelled. He will never again ever contest an election or be in a position where he can compromise the dignity of any women of India. So let that be understood. Maybe if there is an anomaly, why they acted in the manner that they did. The entire order is in appeal before the Supreme Court, and we should wait for the Supreme Court to opine on it. But very, very clear, it is a judicial procedure. It is a pause. If the judgment is wrongly given, but we have to rely on the wisdom of 2 High Court judges. They have to answer. CBI also, I have no doubt in my mind, strictest, the person responsible will be penalized. I've served as the chairperson of Maharashtra State Women's Commission. So I stand for dignity of each and every woman. So does the NDA, so does the Shiv Sena. Let that be very, very clearly understood.
All right, we hear you. Ms. Pooja Tripathi, let me come to you on the same question. What's your take on this?
we stand with the dignity of women. We stand with the survivor. And where were you're standing up when the survivor,
It's a
the now
court's
rape survivor,
order.
dragged across India Gate with three people. Three people were silently protesting with placards in their hand. She was
It is
dragged away.
condemnable. You are right.
Her mother was took off, and let me tell you something. Aman just listed out the whole legal loopholes into it. This case is a classic case, textbook case of denial and justice. Sengar committed a gang rape in 2017. He was expelled from the Bharatiya Janata Party in 2019. After what? After institutional apathy, after you have given free rein to Sengar to not just murder the survivor's father, uncle, aunt, have a blatant attack on the vehicle when she was approaching the court, and she had multiple injuries. And this is political. Let me be very, very clear for it. Because when you start, when there is an
Please
Ankita
don't get politics into it. Let us work towards women getting justice.
All right,
Let's not get politics into it, please.
All right, let me just come in, ma'am. Allow me to please come in here. Of course, I understand.
First answer as a woman of a country and later as an NDA spokesperson, because what is happening to this girl is custodial torture.
Let us all work together to get her justice.
Absolute delaying justice, an absolute travesty of justice. And now, when this person is would be walking free out of jail, she was protesting silently and she was dragged off. And this is how you stand with the people.
Right. Ms. Shah, let me just come in here. And of course, Mr. Pathi, we hear you as well. And I would like to bring Aman into this conversation. Also, of course, what you are saying, this is not about politics, but there is a larger perceived impact and a fallout of this. And I believe we're all trying to talk about the same thing here. So let's just have that clear and out of the way. That being said, if we talk about the critical lapses in the CBI investigation, which are at this point, we just can't ignore this. Aman, if you could just take us through once more. And of course, we have to talk about the fact that was there perhaps an attempt to weaken this entire case? And of course, Aman has the proof there.
Well, certainly see, the CBI claims that in the High Court it has, forwarded a lot of arguments. It has vociferously protested against Mr. Sengar's sentence being suspended. But when you start your arguments in the High Court by admitting that yes, there is a Supreme Court judgment which says you can't treat an MLA as a public servant under the purpose of POCSO, you're in a way starting with a big disadvantage. Number one. Number two, I think as I was saying earlier, the seeds of this case collapse were sown in 2019 when the victim's family goes to the trial court and says, look, there is all sorts of doubts over whether POCSO case charges will stand because the victim's age is under contention, put stiffer charges under the IPC against Mr. Sengar. Even if the victim is not a minor, there has been a rape. There has been a rape by a person in authority. So put stiffer charges against Mr. Sengar, try him under those 376K charges which I've just listed out, which were there mentioned in that petition. There, the CBI leaves the victim alone. In fact, the CBI says, no, we will not support what the victim is saying. We do not stand for addition of these charges. And now the High Court in its judgment is noting this, that the CBI did not support the victim during those particular trial court proceedings, and that led to the trial court dismissing the additional charges against Mr. Sengar. If those additional charges maybe had been put, today we would not have been in the situation. So I think the CBI, besides the, their investigating officer, which the victim family is saying clearly before the High Court also that it was in collusion, he was in collusion with Mr. Sengar, all the evidences were compromised by the CBI, they did not carry out a fair investigation. This particular 2019 trial court, what happened, and now in the High Court when the CBI comes and in a way surrenders arms and says, yes, there is a Supreme Court judgment which says under POCSO you can't try Mr. Sengar as a public servant. This is what has totally contributed to the collapse of the case. And now, the victim's family yesterday has met Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and soon after we heard from the CBI that it is going to immediately file an appeal in the Supreme Court. We'll have to see what the Supreme Court says, but there are grave errors committed by the CBI in this entire probe, as the High Court judgment is also pointing out, the victim's family is also pointing out. Is that an irreversible loss? We'll have to see what the Supreme Court finally rules on this case now.
Absolutely. Well, Aman, thank you so much for bringing us that also. And with that, Ms. Shah and Mr. Pathi, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with your perspective on this as well. We'll, of course, continue to bring you all the investigations and developments on this front. Now, CNN News 18's Shivani Gupta also spoke to Unnao survivor's lawyer, Mahmood Pracha, on the further course of action that she can take and why this order needs to be challenged. Listen to this first.
How do you plan to challenge this contention of the High Court that Sengar is not a public servant, which has gone in his favor in getting this relief from the court?
The reason for grant of this bail is the following, that the High Court cannot decide the appeal, and therefore in time, or it will take some time to decide the appeal, therefore this convict deserves magnanimity and passion and kindness of the court. That is the reason, because you can't keep him endlessly in jail. Now that is the base. So it is, if at all it is a fault of somebody, it's the fault of overburdening of the High Court. Should the convict get the benefit of that, totally neglecting the rights of not only this victim, but also the message it is going to send to society at large, that a person like Kuldeep Singh Sengar, who has raped, then ensured gang rape, then killed the father, then tried to kill the victim, in the process killing the lawyer and two of her relatives. And after that also, despite the fact that Supreme Court had ordered transfer of the case to Delhi, CBI inquiry, despite this, he continues to threaten the accused and attacking the family members of the accused, including her husband. But the key reason is now that victims' rights, even in POCSO cases, have to stand down in front of the rights of a person who is a convict, not an accused. Please mark the distinction. A court has given a finding that CBI was helping him. The IO was actually hand in glove with him. Then, when the IO is hand in glove with him, when the state government and central government are hand in glove with him, they are going out of their way to help this person, Kuldeep Singh Sengar. Then to say that these are the faults in the judgment. The central government is trying to withdraw. They have actually placed best of the lawyers, costliest of lawyers, best of lawyers in Supreme Court to have the security withdrawn from the girl as well as from the family. They were successful in getting the security withdrawn. But we had to fight tooth and nail to even maintain the security of the survivor. But in the best effort of the central government and state government is to put them under so much pressure that you will be killed, otherwise compromise.
All right, with that, we are going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. The news and updates will continue on the other side on CNN News 18.
The course of this entire matter, in the High Court, in the trial court, raises big questions upon the CBI.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Get you the top focus story that we will be tracking in this bulletin. Tariq Rahman, the acting chairman of Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is set to return to Dhaka today after 17 years in exile amidst heightened security measures in the country. The airport and route to his residence have been turned into a fortress with a double-layer security cordon in place. His return is seen as a pivotal movement for the BNP, with the party mobilizing nationwide and expecting around 2 to 5 million supporters to gather for his welcome reception. Rahman's arrival comes ahead of the February 2026 general elections, and he is expected to take charge of the BNP's campaign. His mother, Khalida Zia, is currently ill, and Rahman's return is seen as a morale booster for the party. Government has assured security measures, and Rahman's itinerary includes visits to his mother's hospital, the National Memorial, and a reception venue. BNP sees Rahman's return as a chance to reassert its national presence, while intelligence agencies warn of a heightened risk of street mobilization. Party's future plans include pursuing institutional independence, transparency, and anti-corruption reforms in the country. Now, my colleague Siddhan Mishra spoke to BNP leader ABM Musharraf Hussain. Listen in to this conversation.
Botched up investigation. Why to drag India in the first go? Do you agree to this position of the government?
Do you know the previous government, like Awamu League, led by Sheikh Hasina, and the most of the criminal they already left Bangladesh for our neighboring country India.
Okay.
So it is the assumption most of the people of Bangladesh, the killer of Osman Faring, they leave the country and now they are staying in India. It is sourced by social media.
But on the basis of social media, your government also brought India into the picture. Do you find it a right decision to do that without getting the case properly investigated?
It is under investigation.
No, but the way Yunus government handled, because of the social media chatter, only the violence erupted in Dhaka, the arson took place, the media personnel were attacked, the media houses were burned.
We never support the attack of Pratham Alu and Daily Star. We protest very strongly, and our party senior leader, they also sympathy about this incident. So we cannot accept such kind of accident.
Okay, so but you say that the India's name was brought into the picture only on the basis of social media chatter.
Now we want to cooperation from India side, but we think they are involved a lot of propaganda.
Welcome back to CNN News 18. Thank you so much for staying with us. Here's what we're getting for you right now in CNN News 18 mega exclusive news break. Mufti Taqi Usmani of JUI, a senior Ulama Mufti, has now questioned the immunity to Asim Munir, calling it haram and un-Islamic. Sources close to JUI have revealed that JUI feels it was used for street power and religious legitimacy, but has denied real decision-making authority. They feel the Sharif government is going against the Holy Quran. Top intelligence sources have informed us that this is open clerical dissent. Like Taqi Usmani signals a deeper legitimacy crisis for Pakistan's hybrid regime here. So this is the latest that we're getting right now.
होता यह है कि जो सदर ममलिकत को तहफ़्फ़ुज़ दिया गया हमारे सन 1973 के आइन में, वो भी हमारे नज़र में काबिल एतराज़ था और हमारा एतराज़ काबिल एतराज़ रिकॉर्ड पर है। लेकिन उसमें भी ये होता था कि अगर सदारत के दौरान कोई ताज़ीरी मुकदमा जारी हो तो उसको उसके मुद्दत सदारत के दौरान उस पर मुकदमा नहीं चलता था, लेकिन गवाहियां सब ब्लॉक कर ली जाती थी और अगर वो जब वो सदारत से माजूल हो तो फिर उसके ऊपर मुकदमा चलाया जा सकता था। और यही सारी दुनिया में होता है। लेकिन हमारी इस 27वीं तरमीम में ताहयात उसको इस्तिस्ना दे दिया गया है। ये कुरान करीम की आयत करीमा, खुलफाए राशिदीन के अमल, खुद नबी करीम सरवर दो आलम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के अमल और इस्लामी तालीमात और अदल इंसाफ, हर एतबार से ये सूरत हाल इंतहाई अफसोसनाक है।
All right, for more on this, we have Anand Narasimhan live with us. Anand, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. Now, of course, he's spoken about how this is un-Islamic and haram. He's speaking about the legal exceptionalism in this amendment, and he's talking about how it conflicts with historical precedent also that he was citing in his statement. What's your assessment? All right, so in a CNN News 18 mega exclusive news break that we're bringing for you right now, Mufti Taqi Usmani of JUIF, a senior Mufti, has now questioned immunity to Asim Munir. And let me just come back to you. We were discussing how he's speaking about this legal exceptionalism and how it conflicts with historical precedent that he was citing in his statement. What can you tell us?
I just hope I'm audible in a poor network area, but it is important for us to understand, as Manoj Kumar Gupta gets us these details, that there is a risk. Now, some time back, Asim Munir aligned Pakistan military in Pakistan with the Quran and with Islam. And he said that after Makkah and Medina, this is the only place that has been formed after reading of the Kalma, etc., and directly aligning Pakistan as a Muslim nation that follows the tenets of Islam to the road. Now, in this case, what the clerics are doing is, the clerics are saying that under the Quran and the Sunnah, no ruler, general or caliph is above accountability. So you cannot give anybody life immunity for life. So Asim Munir demanding immunity for life is also not allowed in the religious principle. So when you say what is halal and what is haram, what is allowed, what is permissible, and what is haram, what is not permissible. So this is not permissible as per even the religious tenets. So this puts the Pakistan military in a bind. This also puts the coalition that's been stitched up together and that's been put there, the civilian puppet establishment under Shehbaz Sharif, in a quandary, because Fazlur Rahman is being pressured by the JUI. Fazlur Rahman is an important cog in the entire coalition to pull out support if this immunity continues. So the 27th Amendment now has also become a point of friction, and there are many people under the Jamiat Ulema-e-Islam, that is the JUI of Jamiat in Pakistan, Islami. They are the ones who are now, and individually many clerics are coming out and saying that what Asim Munir is doing to get unbridled power and also speech legitimacy is not going to be permissible under Islam, and you cannot do it in the name of religion and in the name of the tenets. And if the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and the Sharia law and also the Islamic rules govern this country, then Pakistan military leader Asim Munir cannot have immunity for life. No leader can have immunity for life because you are all accountable. Accountable for your actions, accountable for your deeds, be it from the courts or be it under the under the religion and the rules of the religion. You will have to be accountable for your actions. So this is what is being impressed upon, and this chorus is only growing. So this causes a problem both for Rawalpindi and for Islamabad, the military establishment and the civilian government, because the uneasy lies the coalition as far as the civilian government is concerned. And Asim Munir the military will find it difficult to quell what emerges from the religious text and from the religious leaders and the clerics, because the military has aligned itself and called it nothing but an extension of the religion and followers of the religion. They have not kept themselves secular. So this is where the problem is going to be, and this is just the beginning. There will be more and more voices which will oppose Asim Munir's being granted immunity for life, or that matter, any leader being granted immunity for life. Also, we must understand that amongst the religious, the hard right in Pakistan, there is also tacit support, and there are those who believe that Imran Khan is a better leader than the current coalition. And they also don't like the army getting a free run, the military getting a free run.
All right. Anand, thank you so much for bringing us your analysis on that also and breaking this down for us. Now, we are going to continue to track all the developments. We are going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. News and updates will continue on the other side on CNN News 18. Stay tuned.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Let's get you the top focus story that we will be tracking in this bulletin. Tariq Rahman, the acting chairman of Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is set to return to Dhaka today after 17 years in exile amidst heightened security measures in the country. The airport and route to his residence have been turned into a fortress with a double-layer security cordon in place. His return is seen as a pivotal movement for the BNP, with the party mobilizing nationwide and expecting around 2 to 5 million supporters to gather for his welcome reception. Rahman's arrival comes ahead of the February 2026 general elections, and he is expected to take charge of the BNP's campaign. His mother, Khalida Zia, is currently ill, and Rahman's return is seen as a morale booster for the party. Government has assured security measures, and Rahman's itinerary includes visits to his mother's hospital, the National Memorial, and a reception venue. BNP sees Rahman's return as a chance to reassert its national presence, while intelligence agencies warn of a heightened risk of street mobilization. Party's future plans include pursuing institutional independence, transparency, and anti-corruption reforms in the country. Now, my colleague Siddhant Mishra spoke to BNP leader ABM Musharraf Hussain. Listen in to this conversation.
Botched up investigation. Why to drag India in the first go? Do you agree to this position of the government?
Do you know the previous government like Awamu League? Led by Sheikh Hasina. And the most of the criminals, they already left Bangladesh for our neighboring country, India.
Okay.
So it is the assumption most of the people of Bangladesh, the killer of Osman Faring, they leave the country and now they are staying in India. It is sourced by social media.
But on the basis of social media, your government also brought India into the picture. Do you find it a right decision to do that without getting the case properly investigated?
It is under investigation.
No, but the way Yunus government handled, because of the social media chatter, only the violence erupted in Dhaka, the arson took place, the media personnel were attacked, the media houses were burned.
We never support the attack of POCSO and Daily Star. We protest very strongly, and our party senior leader, they also have sympathy about this incident. So we cannot accept such kind of accident.
Okay, so but you say that the India's name was brought into the picture only on the basis.
Welcome back to CNN News 18 with me, Him Korsara. Now here's the latest that we're bringing for you. The situation in Bangladesh, it's once again spiraled out of control following a petrol bomb attack last night. Writers